Hello everyone, myself Deepak Kumar and I am working as Assistant Professor in Department of Chemistry, CL Jain PG College, Firozabad. Today I am here to discuss about stereochemistry. So basically, before going to the main topic, let us consider the table of content. So in this course, we will discuss about the introduction part, the objectives of learning stereochemistry, the definition of stereochemistry, what are the terminologies used in stereochemistry, the representation of three-dimensional molecules, and at last the elements of symmetries. So basically, stereochemistry is the branch of chemistry which deals with the three-dimensional representation of any organic molecule in space. Stereochemistry is quite useful in predicting biological, physical, and chemical properties, and somehow it is important as far as the supramolecular chemistry is concerned. And stereochemistry includes method of determining and describing the relationships between physical, biological, and chemical properties. Now consider the objective part. So basically, here are the objectives: the classification of stereoisomers, the recognize and we recognize a stereogenic center in the molecular structure. How do we recognize that? We will learn in this course various representation of three-dimensional molecules and how do we predict any enantiomer or diastereomer. So basically, what is stereochemistry? So a branch of chemistry which deals with the three-dimensional structure of molecule and their effect on physical and chemical properties is known as stereochemistry. For stereochemistry, three-dimensional structure is quite necessary. So as we know that an sp3 hybridized carbon atom has four groups. They are arranged in this manner. So this is basically the representation of simplest carbon form. So this is the carbon atom, and these four groups must be present. And obviously, this carbon is sp3 hybridized. If carbon is sp2 hybridized, then the geometry will be planar. So three dimension would not exist. So basically, we will discuss in two-dimensional geometries in that way. So here are the isomers and their classifications. So what are isomers? So different compounds having same molecular formula but different physical and chemical properties are known as isomers. Isomers are of these mainly two types: constitutional isomers and stereoisomers. Constitutional isomers are generally known as uh, structural isomers also, and stereoisomers are further classified into two parts: conformational isomers and configurational isomers. Configurational isomers are divided into two parts: geometrical isomers as well as optical isomers. So, before going to isomerism, let's talk about the terminology which are used in the terms which are used in this particular topic. So, the first topic is plane polarized light. Light has the property that it can travel in all the directions or its particle perform the vibrations in all the directions. But when we pass this particular unpolarized light through Nicole prism, then what happens? Then the vibrations which were in all the directions now converts into a particular plane. That plane is considered as polarized plane and the light is considered as polarized light. Why is it useful? Because the compounds have the tendency to deviate this plane into different directions. So basically, there are two types of compound: chiral compounds and achiral compounds. Chiral compounds have the ability to deviate this to clockwise direction or into anti-clockwise direction or clockwise direction. Uh, the compounds which do not have this ability, they are known as optically inactive compounds. So basically, rotation is of two types: clockwise direction and anti-clockwise direction. The compounds which de- uh, shift this plane into clockwise direction, they are known as dextrorotatory compounds, and the other one is known as laboratory compounds. Now, the second term which is used in this stereochemistry is known as the chirality. So, an object which is not superimposable upon its mirror image is known to be chiral compound. So, if we take example of our two hands, then they are non-superimposable to each others because we have a condition that we should not change the plane of one system. So they are non-superimposable, and the compounds which are non-superimposable and on the mirror image, if both the conditions are satisfied, then they are known as chiral. And in this example, we can clearly see that they are the mirror images, but they are superimposable. So these types of compounds are known as achiral. So now the next term is asymmetric or chiral carbon. So a carbon atom bonded tetrahedrally with four different groups. So here we can clearly see that C is attached to COOH, R, NH2, and H. So these four groups are different in nature. So this particular center is known as asymmetric carbon or chiral carbon. Here are some examples of chirality and achiral compounds. Particularly, let's see this example because these two H's are same. That is why the system is achiral in nature. And here all the four groups are different. That is why this is chiral. And similarly for this is the planar structure because this carbon does not have four groups, and that is why it is achiral in nature. Chirality. So basically, this is chiral center. So what are meso compounds now? Meso compounds is a class of compounds in which there exists more than one chiral centers, but the overall compound is optically inactive in nature because of the symmetry. Let's take this example. Here, this carbon atom has four different groups. This carbon atom also has four different groups. So, actually, these two centers are stereogenic centers, or we can say chiral centers. But when we draw the mirror image of this particular compound, then they are superimposable to each others, and because they are superimposable to each other, so we can clearly say that they are achiral in nature, and this achirality is because of the symmetry in itself. So now let us consider about the stereoisomers. So isomers having same molecular formula but different spatial arrangement, they are known as stereoisomers. And enantiomers are the non-superimposable mirror images. So there are basically two conditions: they should be non-superimposable in nature and they should be mirror image in nature. And chirality is the necessary and sufficient condition for existence of enantiomers. If we talk about the diastereomers, then the compound should not be the mirror images. So the condition is they should not be the mirror images to each other. If it is so and they have the same molecular formula and different spatial arrangement, then they would be known as diastereomers. In third one, geometrical isomers. So geometrical isomers are the special class of compounds in which two or more than two compounds are in such a way in which one cannot be transferred to interchange to another by rotation. That means the rotation is restricted, and restricted rotations generally found in the compounds where doubly bonded carbon is present or double bond is present, or sometimes it is also found in uh, single bond carbons also. Stereochemistry and diastereomerism and enantiomerism. Let us take this example. So here we can clearly see that the first one and second one are the mirror images and which are non-superimposable to each other, and third one and fourth one also they are mirror images to each other and they are non-superimposable to each other. So 1 and 2 are enantiomers, 3 and 4 are enantiomers, but 1 and 3 are not mirror images. That is why they are diastereomers, and similarly for second and fourth also. And these are the examples for cis-trans isomerism, syn-anti-isomerism, or in general we call it geometrical isomerism. As we can clearly see that here all the double bonds are there, and here there are some specific cases where single bonded carbon or a single bond around single bond, the geometrical isomerism exists, but the condition is that this bond rotation is restricted, because otherwise that ring will be broken. So this is this particular compound, or this particular compound, they will show geometrical isomerism. Geometrical isomerism is also known as cis-trans isomerism, syn-anti-isomerism, or EZ isomerism. Now, conformational isomers. So, conformational isomers are the isomers that can be converted into one another by a single bond. That means this is something different from geometrical isomerism, quite opposite to geometrical isomerism. In geometrical isomerism, that bond rotation is restricted, but in this, bond rotation is favorable. That means bond rotation happens. So basically, they are the types of conformational isomers which can be found. They are known as a staggered form, skewed form, eclipsed form. Eclipsed form is quite important. Here we clearly see that the groups of first carbon atom, they will overlap the groups of the second carbon atom. Which means the angle between these would be 0 degree, and in a staggered form we can see that they are on a 180-degree form. So these are the projections. There are some projections which are known as flying wedge, Fisher projections, or the Newman projection of molecule. So what are flying wedge projection? Where these dashes and wedges are present, they are known as flying wedge projections. Here, these particular bonds, they are in plane. This wedge is out of the plane and coming out of the plane, and this dash is going into the plane. This Fisher projection, generally we draw it in organic chemistry. This Sawhorse projection, here the tilted form would be formed. And why is it staggered in nature? As I have already told you, here this is staggered. Here first group is on the opposite side of second one, and here we can clearly see that this is coming above, this is coming down, so they are on 180-degree. And similarly for this is the condition, and in eclipsed form these will overlap. And this is the Newman projection, and this is the interconversion of Newman projection to Sawhorse, or Sawhorse to Newman projection, and we will talk it about this later. So at last we will discuss about the elements of symmetry. So there are basically three types of symmetries present: the plane of symmetry, the center of symmetry, and the axis of symmetry. These are the pictorial representation of symmetries. This is the center of symmetry. And how would we get a center of symmetry? When within a molecule, if there is a point from where we go to two different directions and we found the similar type of groups present in the two opposite directions at the same bond length, then that is called the center of symmetry. The axis of symmetry uh, is the symmetry at an angle when the whole molecule is rotated, and we get an indistinguishable form. Then this is known as axis of symmetry. The plane of symmetry is quite simple in nature, and it divides molecule into two equal halves. And here is the important condition: when a molecule does not have a symmetry element, it is non-superimposable mirror image, and hence it is chiral. So, if any compound contains symmetry, then it would be a chiral in nature. That means for chirality, symmetry must be absent within a molecule. So that is it for all today, and thank you so much for being with me.